Well, I'd like to thank OncologyTube for giving me this opportunity to review a recent presentation we had at the European Hematology meetings. The abstract of interest is a little bit unusual in its design, as all of the readers are aware. A previous trial has been done called MM6, and that was a little bit unique in that we studied newly diagnosed multiple myeloma patients, and they could have received any Velcade-based induction, whether it was a doublet or a triplet. And then after 3 cycles, if they had stable or responding disease, they were then switched to an all-oral triplet combination, which consisted of ixazomib, lenalidomide, and dexamethasone, otherwise known as IRD. And we've previously published on this group showing the feasibility and potential benefits of an in-class transition. And so that's all well known. We studied around 100 patients in that single-arm study. However, this abstract's a little bit different in that what we did was we took the MM6 database, and then we also started to do matched pair analysis with a large myeloma registry known as INSIGHT. And INSIGHT was a global registry. And what we did was we extracted matched patients from that were treated in the United States, and they were treated with a slightly different regimen where there was parenteral Velcade given as a subcutaneous injection. So this was not an all-oral regimen. And one of our aims was to see if with the all-oral regimen, we could actually improve compliance, adherence, keep people on therapy longer, because as you know, myeloma has become a continuous therapy disease. And so then what we did was we did the matched pair analysis with some of the shortcomings I've alluded to, and using the MM6 data with the in-class transition, we actually showed, when compared to the INSIGHT registry, a higher overall response rate and a longer duration of therapy. So this was actually somewhat nice and added, I guess, some validity to the in-class transition approach, and more importantly, the ability to stay on prolonged all-oral regimen with ixazomib, lenalidomide, and dexamethasone. And while the data is preliminary, I think it's encouraging and may actually pave the way for doing future in-class transitions in myeloma. As all of you know, there's a tremendous number of myeloma drugs being developed, a lot of new things, CAR T, bispecific antibodies, antibody drug conjugates, molecules with novel mechanisms of action, some of which are oral, some of which are not. But I think this approach provides some good evidence that in-class transition and even using all oral regimens will really help people stay on therapy longer and hopefully improve our overall outcome in myeloma. So although the study design is a bit unusual, it really demonstrates the value of an all-oral regimen, especially in the COVID era. Interestingly, when we designed MM6 and INSIGHT was already up and running, COVID changed a lot of things. A lot of them are now very difficult to analyze. But in the MM6 study, COVID was actually something that played very well with the study, that it was an all-oral regimen and patients didn't really have to go to the physician's office frequently, and they could, stay at home, practice isolation, and stay away from COVID. INSIGHT was affected by COVID similarly, but that data analysis is still in process. So I think overall this showed that using the in-class transition and avoiding parenteral medication increased our response rates and duration of therapy. So thank you for allowing me to quickly summarize our EHA abstract. Well, I think the next step for the research would be to design a successor study to MM6 with some in-class transitions. I know we're looking at the feasibility to do that, but certainly the concept of in-class transition will be here to stay, and it's how we exploit that in myeloma. And then obviously with the INSIGHT database and that registry now closed for a little bit, all of that data and insight will start to mature and will be the foundation for a lot of future analyses. I don't know that we'll be able to quite do this same comparison between a registry and a retrospective study, but it definitely, while it has some shortcomings, is an eye-opener in terms of response rates and duration of therapy. No, I think that the data overall speaks for itself. I think it's, as providers become more comfortable with all oral regimens and doing dose adjustments, toxicities, and then importantly, really measuring patients' quality of life, because myeloma patients are on therapy for a very long time, and hopefully using this and other things as a way to get to MRD negativity, which is really our sort of big goal on the horizon. If you remain minimal residual disease negative for a long period of time, at some point you may actually be able to stop therapy for myeloma. So this database can in part serve as a small part of the foundation for achieving MRD negativity in newly diagnosed patients. Although that wasn't really our endpoint, I think that's everybody's goal at the end of the day.